Kol omer kra, va'omar ma ekra. A voice calls out and tells me to say something. And I answered, what is it that I am supposed to say? All flesh is grass, and all its grace as the flowers of the field. The grass withers, the flowers fade, when the breath of the Lord blows upon them. Surely humanity is like grass. The grass withers, the flowers fade, but the word of our God shall endure forever. The prophet Isaiah, chapter 40. The 23rd Psalm. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai lo ilohu echsar, binot deshe yarbitzeini, al mei menuchot yinahaleini. Nafshi shovev, nafshi shovev, yacheni v'magle tzedek leman shemo, gam ki elech begetz al mavet, lo irara ki ata imadi, shivtecha umishantecha, shivtecha umishantecha, hema yinachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan, neged zorerai, dishata v'shemen roshi, dishata v'shemen roshi, dishata v'shemen roshi, kosi revaya. Ach tov achesed, yirifuni kol yimei chayai, v'shavti bevet Adonai, v'shavti bevet Adonai, leorech yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me to lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul and guides me in straight paths for the sake of the divine name. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The Tanakh, the Bible, teaches us in Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, L'kol zman va'et, l'chol chefetz tachat hashamayim. A season is set for everything, a time for planting and a time for reaping, a time for keeping and a time for leaving, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for embracing and a time for refraining, a time for laughing and a time for weeping, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for speaking and a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing, a time to be born and a time to die. Friends, we gather on this sad day to mourn the death and remember the life of Yas Cohen, Yosef ben Meir HaKohen v'Tzipora. Yas was born in Dordrecht, the Netherlands, on the 5th day of second Adar in the Jewish year 5695, corresponding to Sunday, the 10th day of March, 1935. Yas passed away at the age of 80 this past Shabbat, the 28th day of Tevet, in the Jewish year 5776, corresponding to Friday, the 8th day of January, 2016. On behalf of all who knew and loved Yas, I extend our heartfelt condolences to his loving wife of almost 58 years, Yet Cohen. Yet, over the course of many visits to your home, I have seen with my own eyes the love that you shared with Yas. Your marriage, Yet, is what we all want, a partnership that transcends time and space. You were there for him when he was happy and funny, and you were there for him when his painful past would return as though it happened yesterday. Back in 1958, your marriage to Yas was not only a new beginning for you personally, but for the Dutch Jewish community of post-war Holland, which was decimated in the Holocaust. There were few Jewish couples left, and yours was one of them, a phoenix of love rising from the ashes of destruction. Yas even had a contract with a local florist to deliver you flowers every Friday before Shabbat. Yet I wish you all the strength and comfort in the world as you experience the move that Yas will make from your home to your heart. I also offer our condolences to Yas's 3 loving children, Mike Cohen and his wife Kathy, Ida Harder and her husband Simon, and Mitch Cohen and his wife Laura. Mike, Ida, and Mitch, your father was a great and unique man. Yes, we are all unique in the biological sense, but I have truly never had the honor of knowing anyone even vaguely as great as your father. He was a loving mix of undying loyalty, shining intelligence, searing honesty, bravery, a Jewish sense of righteousness, and good old-fashioned hard work. The loss of a parent is a sad but necessary landmark in life. Your lives will never be the same, but your dad will always be with you nonetheless. I furthermore extend our sympathies to Yas's sister Betty Smoley, who lives in Israel, as well as Yas's beloved nieces, Timna, Mira, and Orit. We also share the pain of this day with Yas's 8 beloved grandchildren, Daniel, Jackie, Jake, Jeffrey, Gregory, Graham, Matthew, and Rachel. You were Yas's prized possessions. You are all very lucky to have known your grandfather, your Opa, well into adulthood. That is a gift you should never take for granted. Not everyone gets that. I didn't. He loved all of you with all his heart, with all his soul, and with all his might. Continue to live your lives in a way that would make your Opa proud. If you always ask, what would Opa say? You will never be led astray. Your grandfather's story, both the painful and the joyous parts, are things that you must pass on to your children. The fate of our broken world depends on the next generation knowing what happened to your grandfather in Europe 70 years ago. I moreover offer our condolences to Yet's brother Bram and his wife Mia, as well as his dear friend of many decades, Bill Jameson. Finally, I offer our condolences and our gratitude to the Van Voorst family of the Netherlands. The Van Voorst family hid Yas as a child during the Holocaust, risking certain death if they were caught helping a Jew. They are honored as righteous Gentiles at Yad Vashem, Israel's Shoah Memorial. Yas Cohen was an executive at Hunter Douglas for many years and honorably served as a captain in the Royal Army of the Netherlands. Before that, he helped the Dutch underground in their struggle against the Nazis, even as a young child. There is so much to say about Yas, so many stories from a man who loved to tell stories. I will limit my remarks to the things that Yas did for our community. The best way to understand Yas Cohen is to think about his hands and his heart. Both his hands and his heart brought blessings to those around him. Look around this place. Just look. Your eye will inevitably land upon something that Yas's hands either made, built, fixed, cleaned, or maintained. He always refused to be a part of the formal leadership of our congregation, preferring to be our handyman. Take a look at this bima, all of it, especially the shulchan over here, the reader's table. Yas went to the main synagogue of the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York and saw their bima. He took a photograph, he took measurements, and then he came back here and he made an exact duplicate of it with his own hands. I have read from the Torah from both of them. They are the same. There is a plaque on the front over here that says, dedicated to the memory of the Jews of Dordrecht, the Netherlands, who perished in the Holocaust. That is how Yas lived his life. The magic of his hands. He took the joy of serving his community, the peace of working with his hands, and consecrated both to the memory of our sacred martyrs, the victims of the Shoah. The work of his hands was not limited to this building. Every day, I walked barefoot on the pergo floor that Yas installed with his bare hands when Naomi and I moved here 10 years ago. He was also an important part of the Villagers Theater, an institution that is dear to many of us. He built many of the sets for productions there, served as the theater's president, and won its Lifetime Achievement Award in 2005. When Yas wasn't building stuff with his hands, he was using his hands to be generous. This Megillah, this scroll of Esther that we read on the holiday of Purim, is from Dordrecht, where he was born. There is something poetically beautiful about reading a Megillah from Dordrecht, because the Megillah tells the story of Jews who fought back against their oppressors and avoided extermination. Most of the Jews of Dordrecht did not survive, but because of Yas's generous hands, their memory lives on here at Temple Bethel. Yas's heart was no less impressive. He believed strongly in doing what was right, even if doing the right thing meant taking personal risks. He once told me how when he was working for Hunter Douglas, his superiors one day ordered him to terminate the employment of a lot of workers just before Christmas. A weaker, less confident, less righteous man would have just obeyed orders. Not Yas Cohen. He told his bosses that human beings do not fire people just before Christmas and offered his resignation. They wisely backed down. Yas told me another story that illustrated the power of his heart and his thirst for righteousness. Some years after the war, Yas was enrolled in school in the Netherlands. A classmate walked up to him and called him a dirty Jew. Bad idea. Yas punched his lights out. The kid whined to the principal about what Yas had done, but when the principal heard the story in context, he said, "Well, you deserved it. That's what happens when you call Yas a dirty Jew." It was the strength of Yas's heart, his inner core of strength, that allowed him to carry the heavy burden of his past. On several occasions, he told me that there are no Holocaust survivors, only dead victims and living victims. His point was that even those who emerged from that period of time physically alive sustained grievous spiritual trauma. For the longest time, Yas's affliction had no name and was therefore ignored or misunderstood. Now we know what he had: PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Despite his condition, Jos was able to be a loving husband, a loving father, a doting grandfather, a successful businessman, and a man who was dedicated to serving his synagogue and his community. Imagine what he would have accomplished had the Nazis not stolen a part of his soul. This week's Torah portion speaks of the plague of darkness that God wrought upon the Egyptians, a darkness so thick that the Torah says one man could not see another. Jos did his best to dispel the darkness that the Nazis spread over his life. He was a light, a beacon in the darkness that allowed us to see God's truth and feel God's love. Today, we bury a king. Our Holocaust survivors are royalty. Our Kohanim are royalty. And those who dedicated their hands and hearts to the service of others are our royalty. All hail the king. Jos was in the process of teaching me some Dutch. So I will say to him, Afscheid, farewell. Remember us in heaven, and we will remember you. I now invite Jos's daughter, Ida, to speak in her father's honor and memory.
Thank you, everyone, for being here in remembrance for my dad, Jos Cohen. And especially thank you to the rabbi. I'm Ida Harder, Jos and Jet's daughter, and I would like to say a few words about my dad. Not really sure where to start. Right now, my most vivid memory of my dad are him suffering the last couple of years and being so brave. And of my mom, who has always been his rock. As the rabbi already said, Dad has been a Holocaust victim, a concentration camp survivor, and he had an unimaginably rough childhood. He finished the war in hiding with a family of farmers, and he stayed in touch with them and loved them ever since his very last day of his life. He views them as his real family, and they're very close to all of us. At 16, he met my mom. She was 14. She moved from Aruba, where her family fled during the wartime, to our hometown in Holland. I often asked her, Mom, how could you have loved Aruba from Holland? And she's like, I love your father, that's what I do. Dad worked in many lines of businesses. He operated the family's scrapyard. He owned a record store, which my older brother Mike and I absolutely loved because it was during the highlight of the Beatles. And he sold precious metals for an international corporation. In 1977, my parents, my brothers and I, moved to Somerset, and since Dad was afraid that Holland would be occupied again, and he didn't want my brothers and I to have to endure living under those circumstances. He stayed with corporate America for a while, and then decided to make his living in home improvements. Dad and Mom have been a member of this congregation ever since, and have made very many dear friends here. I know they have a very special bond with this temple, and my dad views the rabbi as his son. My memories of my dad are that of a very hard-working, loving man, especially when he grew older. He lived for his wife, his children, his grandchildren, and my brother and sister-in-law's little dog, Mo. Mo's picture 8 by 10, moved with him the last 2 years from rehab to rehab. He pointed out to everyone. He just adored the little dog, and the dog adored him. Now, don't get me wrong. For anyone who knows my dad, we all know he wasn't a wallflower. He always had an opinion about something, and he certainly wasn't shy about voicing that opinion. He loved to tell stories about his interaction with people and how he viewed the world, often very unique. Going back to my childhood, Dad was incredibly rule-oriented, really to my chagrin. For example, in the early 70s, every guy had long hair. Well, Dad would not have his sons walk around with long hair. He told my mom to send Mike to the hairdresser, and I don't know, Mitch, he left alone, but he took 2 scissors and actually cut Mike's hair himself. Okay. I'm grateful that my parents traveled to many places when Dad was still healthy to do this. They've been to Israel, they've been to all of Europe, they visited Japan and China when Mitch and Nora lived there with their family. And they loved to go, they were to Aruba. They also traveled a lot here in the United States. Dad fell in love with Aruba, even though he really didn't like the beach. Sorry. Dad's love for my mom has never wavered. They've been role models to me and my brothers and spouses, as well as the 8 grandkids. It was wonderful to have them around when we had our own families, and for them to be such a big part of our lives. Dad was always there to help us with home improvement projects in our houses when he was healthy. And then when he was healthy, my parents came to countless sporting and school events of the children. They were there to babysit, and they were there. We always spent holidays, birthdays, and special occasions together. He was so very sad that he has to miss the weddings of his 2 grandchildren, my son Jeff to his wife Jackie, and my niece Jackie to her husband Brad. I'm very grateful that his suffering has come to an end, and he can be in a better place now. We love you, Dad, and please know that we will all take care of Mom and each other. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be up here, and thank you all for joining us here today.
Thank you, Ida, for sharing with us your warm and touching memories. I now invite Yoss's son, Mitch, to give a eulogy in honor of his father.
I think the best thing I can do is just thank everybody for coming and sit down, because after what you just said, and after what you just said, not much more to add to that. I know that we're streaming live to Israel, to Holland, to Peoria, so just want to thank Betty, Timna, Mira, Orit, Brahma Mia, and Van Forst, and the rest of the family there, and let you all know that you've been with us, and you're in adults right now, and I know that we're going to be together for the coming months and years to come. Where do you start talking about Dad? I think first and foremost, he loved his family. He was extraordinarily proud of each of his kids, his grandkids, And especially towards the end, what made him happiest and proudest of all was to be with his family and to have his grandchildren around him. And he often said, we came here with the 5 of us in 1977, and look at us now. There's 18 and counting. And he was extraordinarily proud of that. As we all do in life, he came to many forks in the road, and somehow between fate, luck, and bold decisions, took the path that shapes us, that shapes all of us today. As we all know, he was a Holocaust survivor. And while he's opened up about that over the last couple of decades, I don't think we'll ever know everything that those 2 young eyes witnessed and experienced back then. He got lucky a second time in '51 when he met that 14-year-old from Aruba, Mom. Need I say more? The 2 of them made an incredible life together for 64 plus years, which again included some very bold decisions that changed and shaped all of us. He was a great soccer player. He was a military guy. He owned a metal scrapyard, like he said he did. He owned a record store, although you can never tell by the collection that I have, because there's nothing there. But that appeared to be fun for you guys, right? And in '77, at the age of 42, I think him and Mom made the boldest move of all, to move to the US, which was another life changer. How they wound up in Somerset is still up for debate. But somehow we wound up in Somerset County, Somerset, New Jersey, and it stuck. He was passionate, stubborn. He was never wrong. He always meant well, smart, handy, talented in many ways, and did I mention opinionated. Throughout the years, they met and made some incredible friends, all of whom contributed to shaping to the new version Dad became these last few decades. I've always admired how they left a really big and intimate circle of friends in Holland, some of whom continue to be around as we speak today, and in the second half of their life, when they started from scratch, built up some very serious and very meaningful bonds and friendships. As was mentioned, the Villagers became a very big part of his life, where he met Bill and Terry Jameson. Through Hunter Douglas, he formed an incredible deep bond with David Jordan and Gloria, and then Eve and the rest of the Jordan family have become part of our family as well. Through David, they befriended Saul and Froma, Brody, with whom again they forged an incredible bond, and together with Ruth and Audrey, became extraordinarily close. The last 2 years have been a battle, and I truly believe that Dad's in a better place. God bless you, Dad. 1 minute. One mission. Oh, and always love you.
Thank you, Mitch, for your message of love and honor. I now invite 3 of Yoss's grandchildren, Daniel, Jeffrey, and Gregory, to come forward to speak individually of your memories.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming here, to be here for my family. Some of us, he was Yoss, some Joseph, but to me, he was my Opa. Whether you knew him or not, if he was in that same room with you, you knew he was there. He was loud, he was opinionated, he was blunt, but he was also smart. Always knew the answer to any question you could ask him, and he was always there for all of us. I had a hard time over the last couple months seeing him because I just remember the old days. That would be someone I looked up to, a great guy, who was always there for us. I heard some stories about the old days where he wasn't the greatest person to the whole family, but that changed in '87 when I was born, '88, '89, down to '97 when the final grandchild was born, and we are the ones that made him the way he was in the later years of his life. He realized I could be angry, I can look at my problems, or I can change myself to make my family better. And he truly did this for all of us. I can go on and on about my Opa, but I'd just like to say thank you for all coming. And Oma, I love you. We will always remember him. Thank you.
I'm Jeff, the second oldest grandchild, and the shortest of the grandsons that'll speak today. My story about Opa, like a lot of stories about Opa, as you've heard, starts with Oma, my amazing grandmother, his amazing wife, who he truly adored, who truly was his whole life. So some numbers of years ago, it's hard to believe Oma had a birthday. It was divisible by 25. And the whole family, as we always do, we get together to celebrate it. And unsurprisingly, we celebrated at the Stage House, where we've been celebrating before it was even the Stage House. And unsurprisingly, we were probably all there about half an hour early. And me and my mom both spoke to the group to try to say how amazing and important Oma was, which is pretty much impossible. It's impossible to overstate just how important both her and Opa are to us. But I guess I did an okay job, because ever since then, whenever I would speak with Opa, just me and him, it's not surprising to anyone who knows him that he will speak about anything and everything. He always said, "Jeff, make sure you speak at my funeral." Now, when my mom first heard that, she was scared for me, and it might sound something morose or depressing, but it's really not. Opa, as you've heard the word that's been said so many times, he's so proud, and he's so proud of his grandchildren. And the way he was proud of me speaking, he just wanted that again. And every time, he could be hard on us when we didn't do good, when we weren't as good as we should have been. And he knew he had such belief in us to be great. And no matter if it was something big or something small, like just treating Oma well or coming and seeing him and being happy, he was so proud of us and was so happy to share that with us. And pride is a word that I think has a lot of mixed connotations. More and more today, we hear pride with a negative connotation, the pride that's arrogant, the pride that causes us to overlook things. But this isn't the pride I'm talking about. I'm talking about the pride that emboldens you, the pride that causes you to strive to be better, and the pride that makes you believe that no matter what, you could still be better tomorrow. It's the pride that got Opa, I'm guessing, through the Holocaust, and he got ahead. And the pride that comes with surviving that, it's that belief that brought his family to America, his 3 amazing children, and their amazing spouses, and the amazing families that they've all raised. It's the pride that, through the cancer, such a strong man being stripped of so much of that physical strength, that still, when any of his grandchildren walked into the room, he couldn't always make out what was going on. But when he could, when he did, he smiled, and he was so happy to see these men and women now, and who they become. And he's so proud of all of us and knew how great we could all be. And like Opa, we have that pride, all of us, and it makes us stubborn, and it causes for friction here and there, but it always makes us, as we go forward, It makes us all better, and I think we're all better because of it. Before everyone was in this room, the rabbi was with our family, and he spoke about, he said, he had Oma repeat after him. He said, "The Lord has given me my husband, and the Lord has taken my husband." He had my mom and my uncles say, "The Lord has taken my father. The Lord has given me my father, and the Lord has taken my father." And that's true. And he's given us our grandfather, and the Lord has taken our grandfather. But what he's made here is a family that I know he's so proud of, and something that him and Oma created, and he'll always be proud of, and will always keep, because of him, we'll always keep making him proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm one of the grandchildren, Greg, and I just wanted to share my thoughts of my Opa. When I think of my Opa, there are two words that come to mind: strength and family. The first word, strength, is physically obvious when you meet him, and then is mentally obvious when you get to know him and learn of his story. When you first meet Opa and you shake his hand, he has these large, strong, encompassing hands. Hands that only a man like Opa could have. I could never have these hands at my age. Hands that went through struggles and adversity, and only with the strength, determination, and love of his family could he get us all to where we are today. Opa was a large and prominent figure in every way. During every family gathering, he was always at the forefront. A story to share, an opinion to add. But most importantly, he was there for every single grandchild. His love for his grandchildren and his family is what he would talk about during his final years. And he had a special way to make every grandchild feel like they were the most important person in the world, developing a special bond with them. He'd spend all night at our family gatherings, sitting on the couch, going one by one to each grandchild. He'd listen to their stories, he'd give his advice, and a hug and a kiss, and he'd move on to the next one. Opa and my special connection wasn't always spoken. When he was going grandchild to grandchild, he wouldn't always come to me every night, but by the end of the night, he'd come find me, he'd take my hand in this grip, and he'd give me a wink. And I completely understood. No words needed to be said. Just a grip and a wink, and I heard what he was saying. "I see you, Greg. I'm proud of you, and I love you." I want to hold his hand one more time. I want to see that wink, but I can't. But it's these interactions that I'll remember most. The strong, loving man who knew exactly how to make every person feel special and important in their own way. A strong, loving man who throughout all times cared about his family most. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, Jeffrey, and Gregory, for remembering your honorable grandfather. We end today with a letter from Yas's niece, Mira Smoley Verbner from Modi'in in Israel. She writes the following. "My uncle Yas was part of my life and my sister's lives for as long as we can remember. Our mother Betty, who is Yas's sister, talked about him a lot. He was part of her daily life. In the 1960s, when my parents got a telephone at our home in Israel, the calls to Yas in Holland were frequent. Very often in the mornings, my mother used to share with us dreams she had the night before involving Yas and their childhood. It happened, not once, that she got a phone call from Yos later that day telling her a similar dream he had. I have visited the United States often in the past 20 years, so it was only natural for me to make Yet and Yos's home my home. Over those years, Yet and Yos became like parents to me. Actually, not like parents, but as parents. Their family became my family, and their home became my home and shelter during my stays in America. It was easy to feel like a daughter to Yos and Yet. We share the same values, and our worldview is very similar. We enjoy talking about books, culture, and of course politics, a subject that Yos liked to tease me about once in a while, being fully aware that we don't think much differently about many topics. We had a lot of conversations about the Shoah. Our discussions were not so much about the details of the horrible years of his childhood, but were more philosophical in nature, about the roots of the Shoah, the consequences of it, and the possibility of future occurrences. I was able to speak to my uncle and aunt about the Shoah much more than I have been able to do with my mother. And I suspect he was able to speak to me, his niece, about it when it was too painful for him to do so with his own children. Yos's answers to my questions, the questions he asked me, the advice he gave me, and the enlightenment he shared with me about things that hadn't occurred to me were always very helpful and very valuable to me. His help and guidance were another good reason for me to stop by in New Jersey on my travels between Washington, D.C. and New York. I was lucky to spend a full year in the U.S. in 2004, which gave me a last taste of Yos and Yet's hospitality during those times when he was home out of the hospital. I treasure in my heart our many long talks sitting at the round table in Yos and Yet's home. I also treasure the wonderful big Cohen family, sharing in their home life and benefiting from all of the support that Yos and Yet have given me for the last 20 years. Yet, Mike and Kathy, Ida and Simon, Mitch and Laura, and all the very beloved children of Yos, my heart is with you today. Yos, may you rest in peace. Love, Mira. Please rise to the memorial prayer. El male rachamim, shochen mamromi, amtze menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הקיים האצילים את נשמת יוסף בן מאיר הכהן וציפורה שהלך לעולמו בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו אנא בעל הרחמים הסתירהו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור ביצורכם את נשמתו, אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Yos Cohen, Yosef ben Meir HaKohen V'Tzipora, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that Yos find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace, and let us say Amen. Please be seated, and please also direct your attention to Jim, our funeral director.
Ladies and gentlemen, interment and committal services will take place at Beth